Hello, everybody, and welcome to UGA Sports Rumors versus Facts, presented by Auto Owners Insurance in cooperation with Turner, Wood, and Smith Insurance. And it is going to be a jam-packed episode here tonight, as myself, Trent Smallwood, Jed May are all here to talk the latest in Georgia football recruiting. Had some visitors this weekend on campus for the Samford game, including Samuel and Pimba, five-star that Trent has had a little some stuff on here lately on UGASports.com and on the Vault. Another reason to be subscribed. But guys, you know, a lot of things going on early in this football season that are crazy on the field, but really the recruiting right now, it seems to be kind of steady as she goes with some of these prospects. But first off, how are each one of you guys doing? And let's get into it here. What are your thoughts on the latest in Georgia football recruiting?
Yeah, doing good. Fantasy team's not, but you know that's how it's going to be for the next few months. And
Browns won for you. The Browns won for you, Jed. Our resident
Browns won for me. I was shocked because I had just, as soon as Baker gets the ball back down 3 minutes or down by 2 with 3 minutes left, I'm like, well, I know how this ends. And then a Browns kicker did something good. So that's a feeling I've never felt before. So yeah, that was cool. That was the high point of the weekend for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the problem with your fantasy team, Jed. You're kind of a homer in that kind of way, so you probably draft.
The thing is, I'm not. I don't have any Browns because last year I had like the 12th pick and took Chubb there because I was like, you know, what are you? I might as well, but I didn't. Chubb was gone. Kareem Hunt was gone. I'm not gonna take any of their receivers. So I think their defense is still out there. I might pick up their defense just to have somebody and play matchups, but yeah, no Browns on the fantasy team. It feels weird.
Got a lot of people joining us here, getting logged in. Tell us where you're from. We always want to see where you guys are watching from tonight on the show. So we always appreciate that. But guys, like we said, Rumors versus Facts here, presented by Turner, Wood, and Smith Insurance in cooperation with Auto Owners Insurance. We are excited to be talking recruiting once again. Got Low Country Dog in here from Buford, South Carolina. So, you know, in fact, hey, timely enough, you can see the Gamecocks helmet over here. You got Georgia and South Carolina facing off with each other this weekend. We got one from San Diego, California. So maybe he's recruiting he's recruiting Roderick out there, the running back. So we'll see Roderick Robinson. So we'll see how everything's going there. Hazelhurst, Georgia, Buford, Georgia. So guys, you know, keep sending them in. Jacksonville, North Carolina. So we got a lot of people tuning in here. Make sure you subscribe, turn on notifications. Guys, we've had a huge outpouring of support on the YouTube channel to get going, past 29,000 subs today, guys. So it's building momentum over here on the UGA Sports YouTube channel. But speaking of building momentum, you know, Georgia 2-0, number one in the country. I've had some people, you know, message on the Vault and stuff today. Trent, is that necessarily going to translate into a big swell of recruiting momentum here, or are we just totally past that now with the age of NIL and kind of everything being so last minute?
No, I still think it does, because you still have your recruiting pitches. You know, NIL is involved, of course, these days, but they're still recruiting pitches. And, you know, what happened at Texas A&M this weekend is not helping your draft stock. And that's what it's all about. I mean, your draft stock and going to the NFL and
what happened at Texas A&M this weekend won't help your blood pressure. I'm telling you, like
it definitely didn't help what Jimbo's trying to pitch over there. Come over here and we'll pay you, win some championships and get you in the NFL. And losing to App State is not the direction you want to be going.
Absolutely. I saw somebody say App was the entree over there in College Station this weekend. There was nothing App about him over there. So
I know you mentioned Roderick a few minutes ago. Did y'all happen to run by his stats this past weekend?
Go ahead. I know he went off. Tell people the specifics of what he had going on over there.
32 carries, 476 yards, 8 touchdowns.
That's not bad. I mean,
that's not your season. That's a game. That's one game.
Well, that is a season if you're talking about Texas A&M offensive output. I mean, that's a full season of yardage, I think, for Texas A&M at this pace with what they're putting out there. But for sure, there's some interesting stuff going on. Who knows how the development out in Texas? Honestly, guys, we've been talking for months thinking that Alabama would just go in there and run through Texas. That was a huge, even though they didn't win the game, that's a huge recruiting win for Sarkisian out there at Texas. And that's a big blow for Alabama in certain ways there in terms of it's a double-edged sword, right? I don't know. You would think it would be a big blow for Alabama, but then again, you would think maybe losing the national championship to Georgia would be a big blow, and then they've went and got some guys here lately. So that's why I say it's going to be very difficult to read kind of the tea leaves here and see, okay, what does this mean and how does it impact? Because in the age of NIL and the transfer portal and all that kind of stuff, it's going to be interesting. But to Trent, your point with the Texas A&M, and Jed, you can speak on this too. I'm going to be interested to see how many of those freshmen that are in there right now for Texas A&M, part of the $30 million class. I like to say that was a $31.5 million loss to App State because, they spent $30 million on the recruiting class, and then they got 1.5. They had to pay 1.5 for App State to come to their home stadium and beat them. But Jed, I mean, I think it's going to be interesting to see how many of those guys end up in the portal after this season, which I think Texas A&M is going to lose a lot more games.
Yeah, and I saw their schedule today, and I don't remember the specifics of it, but their schedule is really tough. I mean, they got Arkansas, I want to say, in a couple weeks, and they got Miami coming in a College Station this week. I mean, it's a tough schedule for them coming up too. So,
it's to Alabama.
Yeah, to Alabama, and I don't know who they play out of the East other than Missouri, but that's what we talked about it, right? That's why Kirby doesn't burn bridges with these guys in the age of the transfer portal, and I'm not saying any of those guys from A&M are a lock to come to Georgia, but like that's why you keep those relationships alive even when guys are committed elsewhere and everything. So it's going to be interesting. And you talked about Alabama. It could be another, like, okay, their offensive line didn't look great, right? You pitch to a Samson Okamola, for example, hey, come to Alabama. We need you to get this line back to what it was. You could compete for playing time early, stuff like that. So it goes both ways. But yeah, definitely it's exciting now to see we've reached that point in the calendar where on-field results are going to start showing up in how schools recruit these kids and everything like that.
I think it's kind of funny how things turn just from, how you're negatively recruiting somebody or whatsoever. Jermaine Burton transfers to go get more touches, which he got
a touch, but it just fell right out of his hands.
Well, my honest opinion is he has more yards at Georgia right now than he does at Alabama. He would have it. He's averaging about three catches per game and about 30 yards per game. But then you got Luther Burden out at Missouri, 4 yards this past weekend. That was a big
that offensive juggernaut up there in Columbia, Missouri.
But see, the thing is, you see him, you follow Luther on social media, and all these people are buying these bags of chips with his face on them, and then you got all these other NIL things, and that's just that's how it is. I'm the school can't facilitate these things, we all know, but that's not something Georgia's really gotten a lot into, and Missouri's like, hey, stay home, get your face on chips and whatever else, and that's how it is. But it's going to be interesting to see how long these kids, if they end up sticking out their careers at all these places, how long the local store brand chips.
Your face is only going to be on those chips for so long if you're averaging 1 catch for 4 yards
on a losing team.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how all this plays out. And guys, before we get to our vault questions, I do want to go ahead and run a little ad here for you. Like I said, we are presented by Auto Owners Insurance in cooperation with Turner Wood and Smith Insurance. Guys, Turner Wood and Smith is as reliable of an insurance agency as you can find. I use them personally. Customer service is tremendous, and they have great policy holders, policy providers like Auto Owners, life, home, car, business, whatever you need. Both companies have been around for over 100 years. Proud to have them as sponsors of the UGA Sports Rumors versus Facts show. So, Now, guys, we've got a lot of questions, so we're going to go ahead and get into them. Guys on YouTube, go ahead and keep throwing your stuff in there. We'll be getting to them in just a little bit. There's old buddy Chris Foster. I was just going back and forth with on Facebook not too long ago. UGA's leading receivers are running back. Why would it be even different with a good wide receiver there? Because, Chris, if you have a George Pickens, if George Pickens was healthy last year, there's no question George Pickens is the number one receiver and leader in yardage and all that kind of stuff. It changed last year. A guy like Brock Bowers, who's unbelievably athletic. The selling point on Georgia's offense is that if you're a really good athlete, they're going to find a way to use you, and that's been the case with Kenny McIntosh. It's been the case with Brock Bowers. What are you going to say, Jed?
I was just going to say, in Kirby talked about this today. Brent and Dane talked about it on Film Don't Lie. Some of these passes from a Georgia perspective are extensions of the run game. When you talk about these swing passes, these quick screens to the receivers. So Kenny McIntosh, say he had, I don't know what he had against Stanford, say 7 catches. Those might, like Kirby is calling those as if they're run plays, if that makes sense. Like, does that really, I don't know if that really matters from a recruiting standpoint, because like the numbers are the numbers and Kenny McIntosh is a leading receiver, but an elite receiver like a Luther Burden, say, would the offense would look different if there was one of those just crazy game-breaking guys on the outside. It's not like the passing offense is featuring Kenny McIntosh because he's the best receiver. Just that's how the offense is looking with how they want to operate the running game and passes that look like runs too.
And, a lot of people, I think what people don't understand too is the receivers and the tight ends that Georgia does have on the roster this year, Trent, are totally capable and have showed last year being one of the most explosive passing offenses in the country last year in terms of explosive plays down the field, yards per attempt, all that kind of stuff. So I think people are playing those too high safeties and things like that, trying to keep you from getting the big play. And Georgia's just saying, okay, well, we're just going to take the perimeter right now and make you tackle in space is kind of what they're saying on how they're attacking defenses.
Yeah, and my point was more so at the half this past Saturday, Alabama receivers had 4 receptions. Georgia wide receivers alone, have 30 receptions on the season through 2 games. I mean, they're averaging 15 receptions per game at the receiver position. Yes, you've seen more depth come in towards the end of the game. A.D. Mitchell got hurt on the first play of the game on the offensive series. He has 5 catches, but that probably been a lot more. I know Kenny McIntosh is the leading receiver, but Georgia is utilizing that receiver position a lot more than they have in years past.
I'm going to scroll these questions across the bottom as we go, so I'll read them off here. Jed, Elko Dog says, latest updates in the recruitment of the 2023 running backs. Are we recruiting Dalen Hollywood Smothers? So Elko Dog asked about 2023 running backs. Jed, I know there was a running back in attendance this past weekend. You can tell people about that. And then also, touch on Dalen Smothers, and then I'll talk a little bit about Roderick Robinson too.
Yeah, as far as Dalen Smothers, I looked at Blaine, you were right before we got on the air. He doesn't even have a Georgia offer. I don't think they were recruiting him that hard, obviously. I want to say North Carolina State was in it for him at the end. There might have been another team. He's committed to Oklahoma now, so don't see anything happening there. Rod Thomas out of Alabama was in town, as people on the Vault called a joke and some other things. And listen, it's like Case and Wiseman. I'm not saying Georgia's going to get him. I'm not saying they're going to offer him because they haven't done that yet. But it's a worthy something to keep an eye on. He was supposed to visit for G-Day. He had a family emergency come up and couldn't make it. So they've been recruiting him, and he's a name to know. But Jamarian Wilcox is still out there. It's kind of like you were saying earlier, Blaine, it's still nothing's happened there. Georgia hasn't offered yet. Jordan Louie is another guy at Meadow Creek. He's off to a huge start to his senior season. That's a guy Georgia could offer. He's currently committed to West Virginia, but still looking around. So, and then, there's Roderick Robinson. There's Jeremiah Love.
Speaking of West Virginia, if anybody's committed to West Virginia, they may want to take a look around after getting the rare double-digit loss in overtime, thanks to the pick 6. That is, I saw that pop up on my phone. I was like, they lost by 13 in overtime.
I did too. I thought it was a typo.
How did this happen? No, but it was West Virginia. Who knows? Jimbo Fisher may just hop hop ship over there at Texas A&M and, say, take me home country roads and go back home to West Virginia over there. He may decide it's too much drama over there in College Station, even though he's created half the drama. But Trent, anything else? I mean, I know Roderick Robinson, I've been in communication with him and his family. They've talked about maybe coming for the Auburn game, maybe coming after the season. So we'll wait and see on all that kind of stuff. That could change. He's out in California. It just depends on when's available, when's good, things like that. I do know this. Roderick Robinson's father, Roderick Robinson Sr., put out there that, the lack of crowd presence at UCLA games was disheartening and things like that. So I think that's one to watch closely. But Trent, anything else on 2023 running backs?
No, I think you're going to look at that Roderick Robinson or a Flip as their main targets, and then they're evaluating the rest. I'd say Wilcox, and then they're going to see Jordan Louie in a couple weeks. I know that Dale has been in touch there, and one thing that I've really just from talking to the coaches that have these kids is they're really wanting to see film of them catching the football, and they're really wanting pass catchers. Kenny McIntosh is a prime example. Dejon Edwards caught, I think it was 60 balls as a senior. It's important for Georgia to get a talented receiver at the running back position in the way they're going to the offense.
And listen, just because Roderick Robinson is listed at 6'1", 6'2", 230 pounds, don't think that man can't catch the football out of the backfield, because they run him on wheel routes out of the backfield at his size, and he's going up and, controlling his body in the air, mossing people over there. So, I mean, athletic is all get out. Georgia definitely wants to flip Roderick Robinson if at all possible, and it looks like they're going to get a visit, whether it's for the Auburn game or whether it's after the season or whenever that timing ends up being. We'll keep you all kind of abreast on that, but that's the latest on 2023 running backs. B. Hodge here, 0702 says, any quotes or updates from recruits after watching Georgia start 2-0, take the number one spot? Jed, I know you've talked to a lot of guys this weekend. I've talked to a couple as well. So go ahead and tell us, what are some quotes or some things that stand out from some of the conversations you've had this past weekend?
Yeah, and even going back to last weekend, a lot of guys are basically saying, like, Georgia looks just as good, and there's no drop off, especially on defense. Like, even when you talk to some of these offensive guys, they're like, hey, don't forget about what they're doing on the defensive side after losing all those guys. And I think that's one of these things with these, especially when you look down the road at some of these 24 and 25 guys, their recruitments obviously, right, have a couple years before they sign. So they don't want programs who are a 1-year wonder, right? And they want programs that are going to be built and sustained for success. And Georgia's showing that, hey, we made the playoff or won a national championship last year, and this year we're gunning for the same thing. So I think that's what's standing out to a lot of these guys, the fact that last year's national championship is just that, last year. This year's team's going to compete for a championship, and Georgia's set up to compete for these championships for years to come, and including when these younger guys are going to be making their college decisions.
For sure. Mid-music replay asked about Smith and Russaw on the defensive side of the ball. I think that is one that it's going to fluctuate, I think, 5 or 6 different times between now and early signing day. So check in closer to December on that, because they're adamant that they're going to college together. They're adamant that they're not going to sign before December, they're not going to commit before December. So, here's the thing. If Georgia, I'm sure there's an opportunity with as heavily as Auburn is recruiting those two, that Georgia would like to have them on campus for that Georgia-Auburn game, because Georgia plans on winning that game, and I'm sure plans on trying to win it handily. And maybe that's just one, move on the chessboard to try to take out an opponent in recruiting.
What do you think about South Carolina having a big recruiting weekend this weekend?
I think that's a great decision by Beamer.
Yeah, I want to say Xavier McLeod is going to be there.
And a certain outside linebacker is going to be there too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and
so
Nicholas Harbor,
no doubt.
That's the game you play with these schools like South Carolina, because look, it's going to be a huge atmosphere, right? And that's like
at the beginning of the game. There,
yeah, well, that's the thing is like
a huge atmosphere for about 15 minutes.
Want to get kids in for these huge atmospheres.
You better hope that they get booed off the field, or I mean,
like that's the game or the whatever balancing act you've got to have as these stats when you welcome in a team like Georgia or Alabama or anything like that. Like think of a few years ago. Like
that's why Texas's performance was so big, Jed.
Yeah,
that's why Texas. I mean, because they had Jalen Hill there. They had a bunch of high profile guys there, and that probably earn them a lot of goodwill with those guys.
Think about 2015. Georgia was in a similar position to Texas. Alabama comes to town. Georgia was ranked, I don't know, 12th or whatever. Alabama just lost, and that was the game. Like Alabama was an underdog for the first time in forever. And the 2015 one in the rain.
In the rain,
Georgia. I mean, I obviously wasn't covering recruiting. I'm sure Georgia
was Devonta Smith at that game.
That's what I'm saying. Like all these recruits come to Georgia's campus, and then you see Alabama win by 35 points or whatever it was, and like that makes you think about some things when you see two schools that are going for you go head to head, and the result is so. I mean, like a touchdown loss, okay, it's whatever, but when the result is that lopsided, it can make you think about some things.
If I'm a college coach, I'm going down that schedule and I'm going up. Georgia, nope. That's a good opportunity to bring some other guys in. Alabama,
bring all the 7th and 8th graders in that day. 7th and 8th graders come to that game. So, all right, the Boy Racer 45, guys, says timeline on Mpemba making a final decision. Sounds like it might be getting moved up from early signing day. Maybe so, but I'm telling you, if it does, and Trent, you can speak more to this. If it does, I think that's a good thing for Georgia because I think they have the most momentum right now in his recruitment.
Yeah, I think the plan is for him to announce on signing day, but I think it's also could be a spur of the moment thing. I think he's looking for where his heart lies, and I think Georgia is very sitting very good position here. I think the relationship with the staff,
Uribe in particular has a great relationship with him.
Yes, and I mean staff, players. He's got to know a lot of players. Even guys like Nolan Smith and having Robert Bill there has been important. Just from talking with the family, talking with him, telling them how things are because they've been there for 4 years. And I think this whole situation has been very good for Mpemba, and Georgia sits in an excellent position.
Probably doesn't hurt seeing how Michael Williams is being used early on either because, I can see Mpemba physically imposing, long, athletic, a lot like Michael Williams. So,
or how Trayvon Walker's first game in the NFL went to.
Yeah, that's probably
and you got the chance to sell early playing time with Nolan Smith and Robert Beal going next year too.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of there's a lot of production leaving on the edge and those two players for sure. Now we got one from Lewis 06 here. Do you think we'll get Tyler Williams commitment or any commitment this month? Definitely think that Tyler Williams on the 27th, Miami's trying to make a late push here. And we talked about results on the field. Miami's going to have a big game at Texas A&M this weekend to try to impress recruits even more, a road game. Georgia has opportunity to do the same if they, go on the road against South Carolina and just, hold up to what Vegas is expecting. A 24.5-point favorite opened up on that one. So I think both of those programs have an opportunity, but I think Georgia sits tight with Tyler Williams right now on that, the leader for that commitment. But hey, we've seen that before, right up until signing day or until announcement day. So we'll keep tabs on that one for you. Any others that could potentially pop? I don't think there's any others that are scheduled to be announced this month.
Hykeem Williams is scheduled. No, I don't think Georgia doesn't land him, but that's one that's scheduled. But yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things where we've reached a point now where a lot of these guys, now that they're into the season, they're like, well, I might as well take some game day visits and everything. Like Samuel Mpemba is going to take. He's still got an official to take to Georgia. Like he's going to be back in Athens at some point this fall. So nothing super imminent. Like you said, Tyler Williams is one to watch. I believe Hykeem is the 21st, 5th, somewhere kind of around that same time, but
right around Tyler Williams' date. Yeah, I was thinking more so guys that I think Georgia has more of a shot with. But hey, Texas A&M was viewed by many as being the favorite If they go, a second straight loss here to Miami, now you got to question, okay, how powerful is this NIL stuff? Because, if is the NIL going to weigh out over losing and certain turmoil that is to come if Jimbo Fisher loses this second game in a row to a team that Texas A&M would have no business losing to, just from a talent standpoint, and it's getting crazy over there. And I can only imagine if we were on the Aggie Yell network having to do recruiting shows right now. I'm sure that would be quite interesting. The board over there was
I've spent some time on their board the past couple of days. It's incredible.
If you don't sign up for the Rivals subscription where you can go read all the different boards, it's worth doing it just to read on days like that happened over there at Texas A&M.
It's not an hour of reading time. It's at least like,
you got
6 hours of reading time. It's brilliant.
The Nebraska board was pretty good too.
It kind of reminds me of I don't know, Georgia after the Colorado loss. Not Colorado. Who'd they lose to?
They did lose to
Colorado, but it wasn't the Colorado I'm talking about. The Vanderbilt loss where they pitched it to Isaiah McKenzie in Kirby's first year. And he ain't it. Kirby ain't it, and it's going downhill.
Absolutely.
The problem, I think, the problem now is they thought Jimbo was their savior, and now they're coming to the reality that he ain't worth the crap, and Winston is the reason he has won national championship. So
yeah. And speaking of Winston, Jameis Winston is lots of entertainment if you're following him on social media. Great stuff over there. It's just gold. But D. Simpson over here says, any chance we, UGA, get back in the game with Malachi Coleman now that Frost has been fired? He's from Nebraska. That is going to be interesting because that's going to be a whole staff change coming, right? There is no way. I don't care if the interim goes and wins every game for Nebraska. There's no way they're going to throw the baby out with the bathwater on that one. They are going to try to rid the stain of that staff off of the Nebraska history. So they're going to get rid of all of those dudes. And that means new relationships are going to have to be taken care of. Can you get, the timing of this is terrible, Trent. It's not like you can get a new head coach in and a whole new staff before, maybe at most a week or two before signing day. It's not ideal at all for Nebraska.
I expect this to be similar to the way Tennessee approached it. They're looking for they'll have an interim coach. At the same time, they'll be looking for a coach and try to make a hire immediate after the season. And that way they have somebody in place before early signing day. But I saw some of the names. Sam Pittman came up. Not going to happen.
Yeah, that's definitely. And hey, let me tell you something. Jimmy Sexton's loving that right now. He's saying, "Please float Sam Pittman's name out there. We're gonna get some of that Walmart money and get Sam a even bigger contract extension over there." But Jed, I've talked to Malachi Coleman when he dropped his top 7. He said that Georgia's still in regular communication with him. Coach McClendon got in touch with him, right when he came aboard Georgia's staff this go around. So. I don't know. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility, but it just have to see who else is all on that list and how it changes over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think it's one that is going to hinge on how things shake out in Nebraska. And like y'all were just talking about, we're not going to know what things are looking like at Nebraska for a while because a lot of these coaches aren't going to be there. Like even the guys that are recruiting him still at Nebraska for the next few months aren't going to be there. Come the first week of December, probably. So, I don't know. I mean, like you said, the Georgia's going to maintain contact. They're going to maintain those relationships. If they could get him on campus for a visit, then things it really might be worth keeping an eye on. But for now, we're just going to have to see how things shake out with Nebraska.
Yeah, and you talked about maintaining relationships, guys. You can see on our screen on the right-hand side there, speaking of great relationships, Turner Wood & Smith Insurance and Auto Owners Insurance. Turner Wood & Smith, a great agency that you can get great customer service from. They've been in Gainesville, in the Northeast Georgia area, and they serve the whole, Southeast region. They got people from all over that they serve, but great customer service. You can call up Trey Wood and his team over there, and they're going to get you helped out. And Auto Owners Insurance is one of the policy providers that they have that can cover you for life, home, car, and business. So make sure to check out those guys, Turner Wood and Smith, and Auto Owners Insurance, sponsors of UGA Sports Rumors versus Facts. All right, Andy Stowe said he read my article about KJ Bolden and said saw where he said, quote, "I look at how Georgia gets a lot of receivers on the field, and that does play a big role in my recruitment." He asked, "Does that help or hurt?" Well, it can be a double-edged sword, there, Trent, but I think he was referring to, and at least from the conversation I was having, he was referring to how Dylan Bell and Jackson Meeks and some of those younger guys got on the field and got some significant time for Georgia in the game Saturday. Dylan Bell had a touchdown reception. And then, of course, last year, everybody knows how A.D. Mitchell and Ladd McConkey were used during their freshman and redshirt freshman years, respectively. So I think it's more of a positive than it would be a negative. I mean, yeah, maybe you're not seeing all the snap count numbers like Alabama does for a certain core group of guys, but you're getting a lot of guys in there and getting a lot of guys opportunities.
Yeah, and I think you got to look at the game on Saturday was a little different. AD got hurt on the first play, and plus you're up by 30 at halftime, so you're going to see a lot more guys play. But the first half of the Oregon game, AD Ladd played 95% of the snaps at wide receiver, and I think you're going to see a shorter wide receiver rotation under McClendon. When games are in, when you get to SEC play or when you get to Florida, Tennessee, those type of games, I think you're going to see a shorter wide receiver rotation. You're not going to see 6 or 7 guys. And I think they're just trying to find in these games at the beginning of the year, trying to find guys they can trust while also, have an opportunity to get those freshmen on the field. But I think AD and Ladd are going to see their snaps go up. And Kyrus. And then
those are going to be the main 3.
Those will be the main 3, and I think you'll have Dylan Bell and Don Blaylock and
Jackson Meeks maybe.
Jackson Meeks got a lot of playing time. I think those 3 are going to see a shorter role as the season goes on, and as games get more competitive, you're going to see a bigger role for the top 3.
Absolutely. KSDJ 1896, 2 solid wide receiver commits, and Tyler Williams trending are Georgia's way. Does UGA take 1 or 2 more wide receivers this cycle? Jed will answer that part of the question first. You think they take 1 or 2 more wide receivers in the class of 2023?
I mean, I think 2 more from the second. I think if they get Tyler Williams, they would be looking to add 1 more to finish off that class. Now, who's it going to be? Like I said, there's Hykeem Williams, doesn't look necessarily great. There's Anthony Evans they're going to keep working on, but
that's what I was going to say. We've maintained that Anthony Evans from the day that he committed, we've maintained on here that
that's not over.
It's not over. That they're always going to keep pursuing him, even though elsewhere it was reported that it's over with and stuff like that. We've maintained from the beginning that hey, this is going to be all the way through, they're going to keep pursuing him. So, but yeah, Jed, I mean, anybody else that, of course, they would take, they're going to keep pursuing Hykeem Williams. But I think, Jed, that the transfer portal may be a big thing for the wide receiver position in this offseason.
And especially because that seems like a position that, that has a lot of guys enter the transfer portal because you get guys on every team that are unhappy with their share of targets or whatever. So if you're looking for a receiver, that the transfer portal is a good place to go get a quality one, right? So like we've said with running back, that could be a place where Kirby looks to add one next spring for sure.
Yeah. And the second part of the question talks about quarterback. It says, and the longer we go without a quarterback, he's talking about commit in the 2024 class is looking like we might skip, or maybe he's talking about 2023 there. Yeah, I think they're definitely going to skip on a 2023 signee out of high school for quarterback. It's either going to be transfer portal, or they're going to try to, lock up either Jaden Davis or Julian Sayin as early as possible. I mean, Trent, I think like Jed was talking about with wide receiver, running back, quarterback, those could all be in play for transfer portal this offseason, especially, maybe after spring, depending on who wins the job next year. Is it Carson Beck? Is it Brock Vandegrift? Is it Gunnar Stockton? One of those three, whoever wins the job, I could see one or two saying, okay, I'm out,
Yeah, and I think it's a situation where if Beck won the job, I think you see Stockton stay put. But what would Vandegrift do? Vandegrift won the job. It would, kind of put pressure on both of those two guys to go because he's only one grade ahead of Stockton. But still, I think Georgia is happy where they're at in the quarterback room right now. And if they was to lose one of those guys when it came to transfer portal, then they would, like to go look in transfer portal themselves. A wide receiver, I think 2 is the minimum. I think you could legitimately see 3 guys, including the transfer portal, because I think you need depth there. And I think Kirby has preached that over and over, how depth is needed. And you are losing a couple guys, losing Kyrus and that. So I think 2 at the minimum would be what Georgia goes with at wide receiver.
I got a question here from Rhett Womack, who joined us a little bit late. Glad to have you in here, Rhett. Is it fact per se that KJ Bolden will be a safety in college, or would we just hope to get him and let him dictate? He was adamant to me, and I spoke to him yesterday after his visit on Saturday. He said that Georgia is recruiting him as a wide receiver. They said if he comes to Georgia, they want him to play receiver, like his dynamic playmaking ability. That's where McClendon, that's where Gummy Van Gorder, who went to Buford, all these guys that are in constant communication with him say, and Kirby Smart says they want him at receiver. So that's where they're recruiting him as. There's other places like Notre Dame and some other Power 5 schools that are recruiting him at safety. But Georgia's one that wants him at receiver. So, we'll see what happens there. We've got another question related to that. We talked a little bit before. Nat Long says here, Hykeem Williams, is it still possible for him to be influenced by Texas ATMs, is how he put it, horrible offensive performance versus App State? Is he going to be in Kyle Field for Miami game this Saturday? Jed, Trent, did either one of y'all know his whereabouts this Saturday? I'm not sure if he's going to be making. I would imagine he would be going for that Miami game. I would think.
No, let me see if he's put anything on Twitter. I know he was at Pittsburgh over the weekend for their game against Tennessee. So his commitment's set for September 23rd, which is 11 days from today. So it makes sense. He's seen Florida State this year. He's seen Pitt, and then Miami and Texas A&M are also in. So he hasn't announced anything. If I had to guess, though, I would say, yeah, he's probably going to be there.
But maybe not after last week. Who knows?
Maybe not. Yeah.
You know what? My plane, they canceled my flight.
If Miami goes in there and wins, that place is liable to burn down tonight. That oil catch fire fast.
Yeah, man, it's gonna be, as Munson said, worse than bonkers if Texas A&M loses to.
I won't get work done for weeks spending time on their message board if they lose on Saturday, guys.
What's crazy is coming in this year, I said Texas A&M will battle, might even win the SEC West. And now I'm down to thinking Arkansas might win the SEC West. I mean, how things have changed, and that's the reason why. What's fun? What the recruiting season in the spring, summer. It's the reason why I always say wait till what you see on the field, because everything changes.
Hey, sometimes you got to get a one. I have to get a wrestling reference into the show. It wouldn't be rumors versus facts. So. I don't typically do this, but as Arn Anderson said one time, I don't like to toot my own horn, but toot, as Arn Anderson said. I told everybody Texas A&M was going to be garbage this year. Like they did, like it's fine to have that huge recruiting class, but they just have no weapons on the outside. Evan Stewart, yeah, he's good, but he's young. You're not going to win with just a freshman. And then both quarterbacks. Neither one are good enough to win against.
The thing is, like, you look at these, the 23 class, they don't have a quarterback in the 23 class, right? Unless I'm just totally blanking on somebody. Then all these guys at the top of 2024, the first top few guys, it doesn't seem like they're in on a ton. Like, that's the weird thing. All these guys they've gotten, and yet quarterback's that one spot that they still haven't really solved over the past couple of years.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I think that I think Miami comes in there and beats Texas A&M. You'll see 3 or 4 guys hit the portal that weekend. I'm just telling you, freshmen hit the portal that weekend. So it's gonna be interesting to see how it all turns out over there. We've already talked Harley Dog Eddie. I'll just put your question on there. He said, "What's up with the running back class? Anyone want to come to Georgia?" Yes, they want to come to Georgia. Georgia was just very selective in who they were going after. They just so happened to miss on those guys. They wanted Justice Haynes. They wanted Reuben Owens. They wanted Richard Young. Struck out on those 3 guys. I still think that, especially with how things are going and how Alabama's offense is looking a little bit different, I think there's an opportunity to flip one of those 2 guys that's committed to Alabama. We'll see as things come around to December.
And I don't know what, Justice Haynes' recruiting pitch was, but I do know when they were talking to Gibbs about, transferring over there, they were going to go back a couple years, start their rushing attack. They were going to focus on having, getting the running game going, which opened up the passing game, and that's not what it's been. It wasn't what it was Saturday. It was.
Jace McClellan did have a long run, but it was basically on a sweep on the outside, more of a perimeter type run type thing. But I agree with you.
I think outside that run, though, they only had like 16 rushes for 31 yards, and it's just.
And most of it was probably done by the magic of Bryce Young's legs.
And I know Georgia is not necessarily running the ball great at this time, but they're utilizing their running backs in the passing game. That they might be only getting 7 or 8 carries per game, but their touches are up around 13 or 14 per game. So
little prediction. This team right here, this team over my right shoulder here, they gave up 200 yards to Georgia State, 295 yards rushing to Arkansas. I think Georgia's going to have a big day on the ground in Columbia this weekend. It's going to be a get-right game for that Georgia rushing attack. You can see on the bottom, Mullet Dog says, and this is our last question on the vault, then we'll hit some YouTube questions. He says, why have we, Georgia, struggled recruiting Buford kids in the past? So, Trent, you've been around longer than anybody. Why does Georgia struggle when it comes to landing Buford prospects?
Number one is some of the kids are not as big as priority, and the ones they've missed on, there's some that have that they have a lot of move-ins too, and if we're taking those into account, but just the Buford kids, they haven't had many ties into Buford, and they do have that tie now with Van Gorder on staff. They do have some more pro Georgia in that school. It hasn't been that way in the past, and
a lot of anti-Georgia in that school.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of, not really pushing kids, but kind of, pushing kids to other places, Alabama and those places, and now there's a little bit more pro Georgia in that school, and it all the way down. I mean, not just in the football office, but all the way there's a little bit more pro UGA, and it's also Georgia taking has some ties in on their staff with Buford, and they're taking advantage. And so I would see, Georgia start to land a couple of Buford kids, but, in the past, not a lot of Buford kids have panned out because they do kind of top out at that high school level just and then they're going through a college, program pretty much today. And, but some do pan out, and I don't know, maybe a safety at Alabama pan out. I don't know.
Yeah, here's the thing, and we'll probably find out. You can just watch the viewership numbers here. We'll see how many people are from Gwinnett County, because I'm probably going to hurt some feelings right here. But what I'm telling you is, listen, okay, there are people that get their feelings hurt because Georgia doesn't come and recruit every prospect that Buford may think is worthy of getting recruited. And that's just the plain fact of it. And there have been coaches over there in the past that have literally push kids the opposite way. I think that relationship is being worked on. So we'll see how that goes. But that's as bluntly as I can be about it. There's just been some people that haven't worked well. And also there are a lot of handlers and trainers and, people that are like pseudo agents in the Gwinnett County area, Jed, from the time these kids we see kids announcing where they're going to go to middle school, where they're going to go to high school, and it's ridiculous how the sense of entitlement that's crept its way into some of these gifted athletes and the people that they're around in that Gwinnett County area. Pretty outstandingly ridiculous. But that's my 2 cents on it, is that, Kirby Smart's really, he's not, he will play the NIL game if he needs to. He will, go in there and talk these kids up when they need to, but he disdains this culture of, hey, look at me, it's all about me. He wants these kids like the Michael Williams, he wants the kids like a Nolan Smith, like all these kids that just kind of put their head down and work. So,
and that's the problem you got going at Texas A&M. I mean, you got 20, 25, 30 me guys on that team, and you can't win that way.
I think when it comes to Buford, like the 24 class is what's really going to be the test, like you were talking about, Blaine. Because 22, Georgia, they didn't have a ton of guys. Georgia specifically went after hard, like Isaiah Bond, to try to get in on at the end. 23, like, okay, they got Justice Haynes, but he just transferred into Buford, so you can't even really count that right. But 24, you've got 3.
Or can you?
Or can you? That's true. I don't know. But then 24, you've got 3 priority targets: Eddrick Houston, KJ Bolden, and KingJoseph Edwards. And you can not quite on the same level as priority, but you could throw Kylan Fox in there too. Those are guys Georgia wants. And
how many did they land, Jed?
That's the thing. Is like, okay, we've got this relationship. Georgia has this relationship with Van Gorder now. If Georgia lands one of those guys, that's a solid start. 2 of those guys is great, and then landing all 3 of them somehow would just be a home run out of the park, whatever. Now, if Georgia lands 0 of those guys, from where they sit today, they're in good shape with all those guys. To a year and a couple months from now, to land none of them, that would be a failure. I mean, it would. With the relation, I mean, Montgomery Van Gorder is working very hard on all 3 of those guys. There's the Buford connection. He's a young guy, relates to these kids.
That's because those 3 guys, when we interview them, they tell us that. They say, hey, that's our guy, Coach Van Gorder. He talks to us all the time. And
he's
then
recruiter, Montgomery Van Gorder.
And I think the thing is, out of all the Buford guys that have come through, even the guys last year, Eddrick and KJ, outside of Haynes, are the best players on that Buford team.
Agreed. KJ looked like the best player on that Buford team last year as a sophomore to me when I saw him play. I mean, he is just a dynamic. Blaine, you were talking about Georgia wants him as a receiver. It's easy to see why. When you watch him play, I mean, he's just electric with the ball in his hands. It's crazy.
And in all fairness, what you said as well, Trent, there's been plenty of people that have come out of that system that haven't panned out at the college level. And like you said, there's so much talent around them when they play at Buford. I think a lot of maybe the stock gets elevated a little bit to a certain extent. But I'll tell you this, Eddrick Houston and KJ Bolden are as good as advertised. Okay, they are 2 that are going to pan out. So whoever gets them, they're going to be guys. And I will say this, that I don't think there's 2 more guys that fit that. Okay, I'm just going to work and just put my head down and not be real flashy, not a lot of conversation, stuff like that, than KJ Bolden and Eddrick Houston. So, guys, is there anything coming up on the side? Anything we got coming up we need to tell the people about before we get going here?
Let's see. I'm going to have a story coming out with 5-star Mike Matthews, who I talked to the other day. Kid looks great. Played receiver for Parkview against North Gwinnett the other night. I'm going to see Damon Hobbs on Friday. He was a guy out of North Carolina. Gwinnett County, yeah, keeping the topic there. And then, Damon Hobbs is a guy when you look at how Georgia's going to try to finish this edge class, Damon Hobbs is a guy they're big on. He visited for the Oregon game. going to see him on Friday night before I headed over to Columbia to cover Georgia on Saturday, and in front of some guys they still might try to flip. Xavier McLeod, I think, is supposed to be there, like you mentioned, Nicholas Harbor, those kind of guys. So going to be an interesting weekend to see if Georgia is able to build some recruiting momentum, even playing away from home.
Absolutely. And, Friday night, I can't even remember all the places that I'm heading Friday night. Jed, so you said you're going to see David, right, on Friday night?
Yep.
We'll update you guys on where we're all each going. We like to put that out on Friday mornings, prospects to watch and where it's called On the Road, that feature that we talk about each week. But guys, that's it for this evening on UGA Sports Rumors versus Facts. Remember, it's presented by Auto Owners Insurance in cooperation with Turner Wood and Smith Insurance. Check both of those companies out. Been around over 100 years. Subscribe to the channel. We're pushing for 30,000 subscribers. So do your part. It's free. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications. And, guys, we will catch you next Monday night for another live edition of UGA Sports Rumors versus Facts.